when the storm is inside you. Mastering emotional control. Close your eyes for a moment, not to escape the world, but to finally hear yourself beneath the noise. There is a silence inside you that you haven't visited in a long time, a quiet place beneath the turbulence, a stillness beneath the chaos. You've forgotten it exists, but it has never forgotten you. Life has been loud lately, hasn't it? Too many demands, too many expectations, too many storms breaking inside your chest before you even know where they came from. And somewhere along the way, you stopped believing you were allowed to feel steady. You started thinking chaos had authority over you, as if your emotions were oceans and you were just the ship tossed between the waves. But here's the truth you've been avoiding. You are not the waves, you are the one who shapes them. Emotional chaos does not appear from nowhere. It grows where awareness has been abandoned, where the mind runs without guidance, where old wounds get a voice louder than your present strength. But emotional control, it begins quietly. Not with a battle, not with force, not with you trying to fix everything in one breath. It begins the moment you decide to return to yourself. Because the storm isn't the problem. The problem is forgetting that you were always the sky, vast, open, unmoved, while the storm was only passing weather. This is not about suppressing your emotions. It's about understanding them so deeply that they no longer control the narrative of your life. It's about healing the chaos at its origin. Your assumptions, your identity, your inner architecture. You don't calm the storm by fighting it. You calm the storm by rising above it, by remembering who you are and who you are not. And now, in this breath, your healing begins. Chapter 1. The Anatomy of Inner Chaos. Chaos doesn't enter your life loudly. It rarely arrives with thunder. Most of the time, it begins with a quiet fracture inside your awareness. A small thought you don't notice, a subtle tension you ignore, a feeling you brush aside because you don't have time to deal with it. But everything you refuse to confront confronts you eventually. This is how emotional chaos is born, not from the world, but from the unexamined corners of your inner world. We like to blame circumstances. We like to blame people. We like to blame timing, fate, misfortune. But chaos doesn't grow where there is clarity. It grows where there is unconsciousness. Think about the last time you felt overwhelmed. Not the surface-level panic, but the deeper pressure beneath it, the heaviness behind your eyes, the tightening in your chest, the feeling of being stretched too thin, pulled in too many directions, carrying expectations that no one else could see. That wasn't life falling apart. That was your nervous system reaching its limit. That was your mind signaling that it had been overloaded, ignored, pushed beyond its boundaries. Is less than #0. 5# is greater than. Chaos is not a monster. It is a messenger. But here's the truth you've never been taught. Emotional chaos isn't created by what happens to you. It's created by how you interpret what happens to you. The storm is not in the event. It's in the meaning you assign to it. One person loses a job and sees opportunity. Another person loses a job and sees collapse. Same event, different inner world. This is why emotional control begins with awareness. Because when you are unaware, your reactions rule you. Old patterns take over. Past wounds speak for you. your emotions stop being responses and become reflexes. You lash out not because you're angry, but because you're tired. You shut down not because you don't care, but because you've carried too much for too long. You overthink not because there's danger, but because your mind doesn't trust you to lead it. This is what happens when the inner storm is left unattended. You lose authority over yourself. You start living by default. You start reacting instead of choosing. You start running on emotional autopilot, trapped in patterns that no longer serve you. And here is the painful part. Most people never break free. Not because they can't, but because they never learn the truth. Emotional chaos is not a sign you are weak. It is a sign you have outgrown the identity you've been living in. Every storm inside you is a request for evolution. A signal that the story you tell about yourself can no longer contain who you are becoming. A reminder that your emotional architecture must be rebuilt, not around fear, not around survival, but around inner authority. You don't need to eliminate chaos. You need to understand it. Trace it, decode it, see what it's asking for. Because once you become aware of the mechanics of your inner storm, it stops being chaos. It becomes data. It becomes clarity. It becomes direction. Awareness is the doorway, and once you walk through it, you will never fear your own emotions again. Chapter 2. Becoming the one who does not break. There comes a moment in every life where the pressure becomes unbearable. Not because you are weak, but because you've spent years being strong in ways that were never sustainable. You've carried weight no one saw. You've held yourself together in silence. You've walked through rooms smiling while your inner world trembled. And eventually, something inside you snapped. Not a breakdown, a breaking open. The old version of you couldn't survive the storm you were entering. It wasn't built for that level of truth. It wasn't built for that depth of evolution. And so it cracked, so the real you could finally breathe. Because emotional control does not come from hardening yourself. It comes from understanding yourself so deeply that nothing external can shake the foundation you stand on. This is where most people get it wrong. They try to become stronger by suppressing their emotions, tightening their jaw, and pretending nothing affects them. But suppression is not strength. Suppression is fear wearing armor. Emotional control is different. It is not resistance. It is resonance. When you truly master your emotions, you don't stop feeling. You stop being owned by what you feel. You don't shut down the storm. You rise above it. You observe its movements. You understand its rhythm. You learn the language of your own nervous system until chaos stops being your enemy and becomes the compass that guides your evolution. To become unbreakable, you must first accept this truth. You are not your emotions. You are the one who sees them. Anger is not you. Fear is not you. Anxiety is not you. They are experiences passing through your consciousness, not definitions of who you are. When you forget this, you drown. When you remember it, you rise. Everything shifts the moment you realize that emotions are not commands, they are signals. Fear says, go slower, pay attention. Anger says, a boundary has been violated. Sadness says, something needs to be released. Anxiety says, you are living in a future that hasn't happened yet. None of these messages are meant to break you. They are meant to teach you. Emotional mastery is not about controlling the storm. It is about controlling your relationship to the storm. You stop asking, "How do I avoid this feeling?" Instead, you ask, "What is this feeling trying to show me?" That question alone can transform a life, because the truth is brutal but liberating. You don't heal by escaping your emotions. You heal by meeting them with authority. Becoming unbreakable is not about never falling apart. It's about knowing how to return to yourself every single time. It's about creating an inner structure so stable that even when everything outside collapses, your identity remains untouched. This is the version of you that chaos cannot touch, the version of you that breathes deeply while others panic, the version of you that watches the storm and says, "I've met you before, and I know who I become after you leave." You are not here to survive your emotions. You are here to lead them. You are not here to run from the storm. You are here to walk through it as the one who does not break. Chapter 3. The shift from reaction to inner authority. There is a point in your healing where you realize something life-changing. Most of your suffering never came from the events themselves, but from your reactions to them. Your reactions were shaped by old wounds, old assumptions, old identities you didn't even know you were still wearing. When someone spoke sharply to you, you reacted as the version of yourself who had once been silenced. When someone ignored you, you reacted as the version who once felt invisible. When life didn't go your way, you reacted as the version who believed nothing ever would. You weren't reacting to the moment. You were reacting to your memory of pain. This is how chaos survives. Not because the world is hostile, but because the past keeps rewriting the present, while you're too overwhelmed to notice. To reclaim emotional control, you must reclaim authorship over your inner world. You must stop giving old stories the power to interpret new moments. This shift begins with something simple, but profound. Pause. The pause is where your power hides, not in the reaction, not in the emotion, in the quiet second before it. That tiny gap, the space between stimulus and response, is where your entire transformation unfolds. In that space, you decide, will I react from the wound, or respond from the self I am becoming? When you pause, you interrupt the old script. Suddenly, the emotion that once controlled you becomes visible, nameable, and therefore manageable. You can observe. This is fear rising. This is insecurity speaking. This is an old narrative trying to revive itself. The moment you can see your emotion, you are no longer inside it. And once you are no longer inside it, you can lead it. Inner authority is not about suppressing your emotions, nor is it about dominating them with discipline. It is about understanding that your emotions are responses, not rulers. When sadness rises, you don't drown. You listen. When anger flares, you don't lose yourself. You investigate. When anxiety spirals, you don't collapse. You anchor. Emotional control is not a fight. It is alignment. It is the moment you realize that your inner world does not get to move without your permission. And here is the truth most people avoid. Emotional chaos only thrives in a mind that has not yet chosen who it belongs to. If you don't choose your identity, your fears will choose it for you. Your past will choose it for you. Your triggers will choose it for you. Inner authority is about choosing yourself, deliberately, consciously, consistently, until it becomes second nature. This is where imagination enters the process. Not as escapism, not as fantasy, but as design. Because the identity you choose in consciousness becomes the state from which you respond to life. If you imagine yourself as grounded, your reactions soften. If you imagine yourself as unshakable, your presence strengthens. If you imagine yourself as whole, your wounds stop dictating your behavior. You don't wait for emotional control to magically appear. You build it, internally, daily, deliberately. This is the shift. From being moved by every feeling to becoming the one who decides what each feeling means. From reaction to authorship, from survival to sovereignty. And this is the moment your inner world becomes yours again. Chapter 4. The practice of becoming untouchable. Emotional control is not achieved in a single breakthrough. It is forged through repetition, through conscious practice, through choosing your highest self again and again, until the choice becomes your nature. Most people never reach emotional mastery because they expect change to feel dramatic. They wait for a lightning strike, a revelation, a magical shift that suddenly makes them immune to chaos. But real transformation doesn't feel like that. It feels subtle, quiet, almost invisible, until one day you face something that used to break you and you remain unmoved. Becoming emotionally untouchable is not about becoming numb, it is about becoming clear. Clear in your identity, clear in your narrative, clear in the way you interpret your emotions. Clarity is what makes you powerful. Clarity is what makes you calm. Clarity is what makes you sovereign. To develop this clarity, you practice three things: stillness, observation, identity. Let's go deeper. Stillness. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It is the presence of control. It is the moment you decide to experience your emotions without immediately responding to them. Stillness is a discipline. It trains your nervous system to stop equating intensity with danger. It teaches your mind that not every feeling requires action. Sit with the discomfort. Breathe into the tension. Let the emotion rise and fall without losing yourself in it. This alone can change your life. Observation. Observation is where you detach, where you step out of the emotion and look at it with the calm of a witness. Ask yourself, what triggered this? What story am I telling myself? Is less than #0. 5# is greater than whose voice is speaking right now, mine or an old wound. When you observe your emotions, you stop drowning in them. You start decoding them. Observation turns chaos into information. It turns overwhelm into clarity. It turns reactions into choices. Identity. This is the core, the foundation, the element that transforms everything. You cannot master your emotions while clinging to the identity that keeps creating them. You must select the version of you who no longer operates from fear, who no longer assumes the worst, who no longer reacts as the wounded self. Identity is not something you discover, it's something you choose. Choose the self who stays calm. Choose the self who thinks clearly. Choose the self who responds with intention instead of instinct. Hold that identity in your imagination until it becomes more familiar than the old one. This is how you become untouchable. Not by eliminating emotion, but by eliminating the version of you that misinterprets emotion. You become unshakable when your identity is no longer negotiable, when your inner narrative does not change with your mood, when your sense of self is not at the mercy of circumstance. That is emotional control. That is healing. That is evolution. Because the truth is simple. Chaos does not disappear. Life does not stop testing you. People do not stop disappointing you. Unexpected storms will always come. But the version of you who faces them does not have to be the version who breaks. Healing begins when you stop trying to calm the world and start becoming the one who cannot be shaken by it. What have we learned? Emotional chaos is not a life sentence. It is a signal, a teacher, a mirror showing you what still needs your presence. Healing doesn't come from resisting the storm, but from remembering that the storm is not stronger than you. You learn that chaos begins in unconsciousness and dissolves in awareness. That emotional control is not the absence of feeling, but the mastery of meaning. That the version of you who breaks is never the version you are required to remain. You learned to pause, to observe, to return to yourself before you respond. You learned that identity shapes reaction, and reaction shapes reality. You are not here to manage every emotion. You are here to lead them, to choose who you are in the moments that try to make you forget. Healing is not loud. It is quiet, steady, deliberate. It is the rebuilding of your inner architecture until nothing outside can pull you off center. And it all begins the moment you decide to become the one who does not break. Thank you for watching. If this message found you in a moment of chaos, let it remind you of the truth buried beneath the noise. You are not fragile. You are not lost. You are not at the mercy of your emotions. You are the sky, vast, stable, untouched, and every storm is temporary. So carry this with you. When the world becomes loud, return to your stillness. When the emotion rises, return to your authority. When the storm appears, return to the self you have chosen. Because the moment you choose who you are, life adjusts. Thank you for watching, and welcome back to yourself.